Hi there, welcome to HoboRec Q&A session number 3. And again, thank you so much for sending in your questions in the comment sections and on the emails and stuff. I'm gonna read a couple of the questions here today and give you as good of an answer as I can. So first up, we have a guy called Marcus Rågbak. And he writes, I would like to build some DIY gear like you did with the EQP 5 kit. The problem is that I have absolutely no experience at all in soldering or electrical works in general. What do you think would be a good project to start with? Also, love your channel. Nice to see a fellow punk as a YouTuber with a similar approach to music as me. That's awesome to hear. Thanks so much. I would say if you have no experience in soldering or stuff like that, since before, I think you should start with something really easy. I mean, you can start with soldering just some cables first to like get to know how the soldering iron and the solder works, and then you can start with building some simple guitar pedal kits. And I know there is a company called Build Your Own Clone that makes some really cool guitar pedals. They have a small beginner's kit called the Confidence Booster. I will write a link in the description to this video to where you can buy that and get you started with your DIY journey. Evars V Metal writes and asks, hey, can you recommend a budget comp preamp outboard that would do a good job of smashing the vocals on the way in? Thanks, really like your channel, keep going. Thank you. It's a bit tricky with the budget compressors. I would probably recommend, I mean, if it's for vocals, I like classic optical compression like the LA3A or the LA2A on the way in. I'm not sure if there are any like real budget versions of that, but I mean, you have the Stam Audio, the Warm Audio. Golden Age has, I think, an LA3A inspired compressor, and I know Stam Audio has a clone of the LA3A coming out, which I believe is really good. I hope to get one to give it a review. But I mean, those are not cheap, but they are a lot cheaper than buying a new distressor or a vintage LA2A or LA3A. Other than that, you can look into optical compressors by Joe Meek. I haven't actually tried any myself, but I've read that they should be pretty decent. And also you have a really nice compressor from FMR Audio, which I haven't tried either, but I read good things about it. But if you really want some character, like from an optical classic compressor, I think you will get closer with some really good plugins instead of buying cheap hardware, or just save up to buy a good outboard compressor. Pierre Bigue something. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name. Writes, hi Ulf, what's your opinion on modeling processors like Axefx Kemper Helix? And what is your recommendations for recording guitars in apartments with neighbors? Thanks. To be honest, I haven't tried any amp modeling since the Line 6 Pro that I have in my studio, but I never used it. So not really sure actually. For me personally, I like to make it a little bit more complicated and actually record with real amps. As far as I understand, the modeling has come far away and you get really good sounds of the Kempers and Axefx and all other stuff. But for me, it seems like if you find your preset or something, you're gonna get the same result every time. And for me, that's feels a little bit boring, so I like to put up mics and work with real amps every time. And there are a few things you can do if you want to work with a real amp. I mean, you can get a device that makes it possible that you can line from your amp, from the speaker out of your amp through a box into your interface, and then just put a cab impulse or something on that. And that way you can work with a real amp. But then of course you're not going to have as much options as you will with a modeling amp. Not sure if that's a good answer, because I don't really answer what I think about the modeling amps, because actually I don't know. Haven't used them, and I'm a little bit afraid of using them because I know I probably will feel that it's really convenient and easy to work with, and I'm really old school and fond of working with real amps still. Someone called Steven Glover writes, can you give me some basic tips on recording a cheap drum kit? I have new heads and a drum dial to tune it. It sounds great in the room, but I'm having trouble capturing what it really sounds like. I'm using Sennheiser E604s on the toms, a 57 on the snare, and a D6 Beta 52 and sub kick on the kick drum. Also using some cheap pencil condensers on overhead, MXL 990 for a far room mic, and a Sterling ST51 on close room. Thanks for all your hard work. I'm a huge fan of the channel. Gear-wise, it sounds like you have it all set. I mean, you have decent microphones, you have a decent amount of microphones. You say you think the drums sounds good in the room, but you have a hard time capturing it. It's really hard to answer what the problem could be. I mean, cheap drums should be fine, and as you say it sounds good in the room, so it should sound good on the recording too. And the only thing that I can imagine being wrong here is that you have some serious phase issues. So try like flipping the face around on different close mics and the room mics and see. I mean, for example, if you have the overhead microphones and you have the snare close mic and those two are out of phase with each other, you're gonna have a really weak snare sound. So try to flip the phase or the polarity on the close snare mic. Just solo the overheads and the snare mic and flip the polarity back and forth on the snare mic and see which position you like the most. The one that sounds really fat and punchy is the one you're gonna want. And then go through all the other microphones like that too. And if you can't get it to sit right, you're gonna have to start moving things around a little bit. Be sure that the overheads are the same distance from the snare drum and stuff like that. I'm gonna try to do some sort of drum recording tutorial on this channel in a not too far future. So I'm gonna go through all the basics on drum recordings. So hope you check back for that. And the last question for today, Rough Records writes, how important is DAAD conversion? I'm using a Midas Venice F74 console, and how slow do you set the attack on a compressor to let the drum transient through to get punchy sound? A to D D2A conversion I think is pretty important, but also most converters these days are really good, even the cheaper ones. In my own studio I have the Orion 32 from Antelope, and I think that one is great. And before that I had a Allen & Heath GSR 24 console with its built-in A to D D2A conversion, and I have to say I switched to that from having an M Audio Project Mix. I don't know if you remember, M Audio had its project mix that looks like it's like a control surface with audio interface and everything built in. And when I switched from that to the Allen & Heath GSR console, then I felt a huge difference in sound quality, but I'm not sure if that was only the A to D D2A conversion or also the mic pre's and stuff like that. When I switched from the Allen & Heath GSR to the Orion 32, I also felt that there was a little rise in quality, but I'm not sure there actually, because the difference was so subtle. I also switched for a whole nother console, so there's too many variables to tell if that was the A to D D2A conversion. In this studio we use a Pro Tools HD system with its own converters that works pretty fine here. But as long as you have decent converters and they are not like really old, I think you can't really go wrong. For the compression settings, I have no idea exactly what times I put my compressors on. I usually don't watch the numbers that much. I try to listen. I mean, I use the Stam Audio version of the LA2A, the SA2A a lot, and that doesn't have any attack and release times. I also use the 1176 a lot, but there's not really attack and release times on those either, since on that one you just go from slow to fast, and I'm not really sure about the numbers there. And in plug-in compressors I do the same thing. I just run the knobs back and forth till I think it sounds good. But of course, I mean, you want for snares and stuff like that, I usually go for slower attack. The release is harder to say, I don't really know there, but attack you want slower to let the transient pop through. On room mics, I go different routes sometimes. Sometimes I go with really fast attack to just like limit and smash the rooms. But sometimes you want some attack or transient in the room mics too. So then I go for slower. But as I said, no specific numbers there. So sorry for not being more specific. But I usually think using your ears is better than using a calculator. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please help me to share these videos. Share them on Facebook or wherever you want to share them. Every new subscriber I get is really helpful, and the more subscribers I get, the bigger chance is that I can get some cool products for reviews and stuff like that too. So all the comments, all the likes, all the shares. Thank you so much for helping me out with that. And see you again next week. Bye bye. Cheers.